सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्. So we saw yesterday that the student is approaching the teacher and two analogies were used. One analogy was the analogy where the student compares the teacher with the cooling rays of the moon, and one was like the spring. And then the third one, the last verse that we saw, it was said that the speech of the teacher is like the nectar, a pot, a kalash. And the teacher has the experience of the truth as well as the knowledge of the scriptures, and the speech of the teacher makes the mind of the student calm and peaceful. And that the teacher has accepted the student. Patri krita svikrita. So the word patra is a beautiful word. Patra means a vessel. The teacher accepts the students. Each student has a different type of vessel. So the teacher accepts the student as the student is. That is one meaning, patri krita. Another meaning is that the student must be a fit patra, a fit receiver or a proper vessel, so that when the knowledge is given, it retains. That's the qualification that the student has to cultivate. The more the qualifications we cultivate, what we saw, those 10 qualifications. Sadhan Chatushtaya and Bhakti together. Then the student becomes more and more eligible, a fit patra. So patri krita svikritaha. And such students are blessed. Dhanyahate. Now, when the student has gone to the teacher, what is the anxiety in the mind of the student? That is expressed in the 40th verse. Katham tareyam bhava sindhu metam kava gatirme katamostyupayaha jane na kinchit kripayava mam prabho samsara dukkha kshatimatanushva. So the student is asking the teacher, Katham tareyam bhava sindhu metam. This is the general inquiry. The specific questions will come in another few verses. In 49th verse it will come. But this is a general inquiry. Katham tareyam bhava sindhu metam. How should I cross this bhavasagar? Kava gatirme. What will be my state? Katamostyupayaha. What is the way to achieve this? Janena kinchit. I don't know anything. Kripayava mam prabho. Please protect me, O Lord. Samsara dukkha kshatim atanushva. From this afflictions of samsara, from the sorrows of the samsara, please save me. So now, katham tareyam bhava sindhu metam. So this bhava sindhu is not outside somewhere. It is not to be going away from the duties, from the family, from the people. That if required, one may do. But Bhava Sindhu, one meaning, as we saw earlier, is to get out of the identification with the body, because of which we feel incomplete, because of which we feel insecure. So Ahankar leads to Alpatva, Alpatva leads to Jiva Bhav. Jiva Bhav leads to Kartritva and Bhoktritva. And this cycle goes on. So as long as I feel incomplete, identified with the body. So crossing over the ocean of samsara means crossing over the attachment to the body, mind, intellect, the notion that I am this. And that to cross over is very, very tough, because we have been brought up this way and we believe that 24 hours our belief is I am this. That has to be substituted with the thought and with the clarity that I am not this. So katham tareyam bhava sindhum etam. How do I go beyond the body, mind and intellect, to which there is such deep identification? And what is that which lies beyond this body, mind, intellect? That also I don't know. Kava gatir me. When I transcend the body, mind, intellect, what will be there? What is that state that I am not aware of right now? All that I know is what the scriptures are saying. So what will be that state beyond body, mind and intellect? What is that final destination? We call it our true nature. We call it the state of moksha, permanent happiness. What exactly is that? Because the teacher has experienced, teacher has gone beyond. So the student is asking, Kava gatir me. If I follow that path, if I transcend the body, mind, intellect attachment, what will be that state? Another aspect of Kava gatir me is what Arjun asks. So this, what will happen when I transcend the body, mind, intellect, is a question that Nachiketa has also asked Lord Yama. So he's not asking Lord Yama to tell him, is there life after death? In the third boon that he asks, because he's standing right in front of Lord Yama. He has dropped the body, he's gone there. Some people say he went with the body, whatever may be the opinion that a person has. But his question is not about is there life after death, because that is standing in front of Yama. So he knows that there is a higher way of, there's a level of existence after death. His question is, if I transcend, if the ego dies, if I transcend the attachment to body, mind, intellect, what is that state? So, katham tareyam bhava sindhum etam. Nachiketa's question also is that every Vedantic seeker will have this question, that if I transcend the body, mind, intellect attachment, what is that state? Who will be, what is my identity? Because today my identity is only this relative identity. If I drop that, what is been, who will be, who am I? That will be the question. Second, he asks, Kava gatir me, what is my gati? One is, when I transcend the BMI, what is the gatis? Second is, if I don't transcend the BMI, I am living in this world in self-control with all those qualifications, and I don't manage to realize the truth. Like Arjuna asks in the Gita, Kachinno bhaya vibrashtaha chinnabhram iva nashyati. Will I be like that rain-bearing cloud which promises rain, but a strong wind that passes by just disperses and scatters it away? In that same way, I put so much of hard work, effort, I try to realize the truth in this body. But suppose I'm not able to realize. Before that the body drops. Will all that effort be wasted? So Kava gatir me, what is my gati? Will all that spiritual effort be wasted? Will I have to restart again? Different aspects are there. The gati of a jiva. What is the gati of a jiva? Whether one goes to higher worlds, whether one goes to lower plane of evolution, when one continues the journey or one starts from beginning, these are all questions that will be there. Kava gatirme. That what is my gati? Punya and Papa I have done. Each of these one has to experience. There is no mutual cancellation. So what is the gati of the individual? After dropping the body identification, both. Kava gatirme. Katamostyupayaha. And what is the means to transcend this also? To transcend the attachment, what is the means? There are so many spiritual practices that we are doing that are prevalent also. What is the means which will help me to attain this, to cross over this Bhav Sagar, whereby once one crosses it, one doesn't come back? So the permanent cure. So what is the means towards that? Katamostyupaya. Jane na kinchit. He says, I don't know anything. This is very, very important. When we want to learn, the feeling must be, I don't know. So even when we listen to a lecture, sometimes we listen to the lecture with the thought that, okay, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. Nothing new was said today. Then I'm interested in new information, not interested in the truth. Or one judges the oratorical skills, the command over language, the ability to keep the audience, interested. One is judging. But a student who wants to know the truth goes there with the attitude that I don't know. Actually, listening has to be done every time as though it is being done for the first time, with that freshness and openness of the mind. So I don't know is a very important step to gain knowledge. Humility is the first step. In the Gita also, in 13th chapter, Bhagavan, when he says what is jnanam, the first quality he mentions is amanitvam. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam. So in that the first one is amanitvam. Like a vessel which already has tea, like a cup which already has tea, more tea cannot be poured, it will keep overflowing. In the same way, if our buddhi we have already filled with information and knowledge and we feel I know, then when one goes to the teacher, that humility is not there. How much ever one knows intellectually, one may be a big scholar, but transcending the BMI, experiencing the self is something else altogether. That one has not yet done, which is what one is asking. Katham tareyam bhava sindhu metam. So one is not asking for information, one is not asking some more scholarly knowledge. What one is asking is, how do I go beyond? So for that, that feeling is important that I don't know. I may know many, many commentaries and many, many scriptures. People like Kabir Das ji, people like Raman Maharshi, they have not gone through the scholarly way of studying different texts and scriptures. But what happens? They have experienced a state where the transcendence has happened. So many Vedic scholars used to come to Ramana Maharshi to clarify their doubts. Ki this is what is written in the Veda, this is what we are not able to understand. This seems to be contradictory. Can you please resolve it? Can you please help us out? So the master who has transcended the BMI is at a very different state. So the student who goes to the teacher with that attitude that I don't know that state and I want to know that state. It apparently is my nature, but I don't know it right now. So I don't know is the first aspect, the humility aspect. Even in secular knowledge, that is required. Then what to talk of spiritual life? So I don't know. Jane na kinchit. I know nothing. This is not false humility. This is not to say that, I don't know anything or I am nothing. Outside one says it, but inside one feels very great. Just yesterday I read somewhere, very nicely it was said. that one should never feel that I am the smartest in the class. Why? Because if I feel I am the smartest in the class, either I should add somebody who is more smart in the group, or I should leave that group and go, because my learning will stop otherwise. So constantly one has to have that attitude that I don't know and I am learning. I am a student. I am here to gain, understand. In fact, the more I know in spiritual life, the more it seems I don't know. So many scriptures that we may read. The more we read those scriptures, the more it becomes the quest to know the truth, more humility comes. That I still don't know the truth. I may know certain methods, I may know certain path, I may know certain practices. And no doubt one has to walk and one will definitely reach. But till one doesn't transcend the attachment to the BM, I don't know is a very important bhav to have. So, Janena Kinchit. A very beautiful Subhashita says, Vidya Dadati Vinayam. When we have knowledge, that knowledge must bring humility. So, knowledge, the more I know, the more humble I become. The more humble I become, the more I know. So that beautiful connection between humility and knowledge. Meekness, humility, surrender, all that happens when I have this bhav, I don't know. Otherwise, there is an ego of ahankar, that is called jnana. There is ego of jnana, so that is called jnana ahankar. Where the mind feels that I know. And when that happens, the mind blocks. So one will not even seek satsang. One will not even go sometimes to listen. Because one feels I know. Many times we may read the whole Gita also and we may say, yes, yes, I know what is written in the Gita. Gurudev spoke on the Gita for 42 years. Non-stop. Every evening. That's the bhav of a student also. Constantly one reflects. That's why in the Gita Dhyan Shloka beautifully it is said, Ambatvam anusandadhami. O mother, I constantly reflect upon you. Anu means constant. Sandadhami, reflect. I constantly reflect upon you. Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshini. O Mother Gita, you are the one who destroys this Bhavaroga. So Anusandadhami. So constantly when the feeling is I want to know because I don't know, then the person learns, assimilates. So Janena Kinchit. Kripayava Mam Prabho. O Lord, please protect me. Protect me from my own subjective agitations. Protect me from getting disinterested in truth. Protect me from having only a scholarly approach and not the intense quest to experience and realize the truth. The mind goes through many ups and downs. Protect me from all that. Temptations of the world. The protection of the Guru is a very, very, very important factor. In the Tulsi Ramayana, Vibhishan Gita, when Vibhishan sees that Bhagavan Ram is standing against Ravan, Ravan has a proper chariot and he has an armor and a shield and he has bow, arrow. He is fully decked, fully prepared for the war. And Bhagavan Ram is standing there barefoot, bare-chested, just a bow and some arrows. He doesn't have a crown, he doesn't have an armor, he doesn't have a chariot, nothing. So Vibhishan gets very anxious. And he says, Ravanu Rathi Birath Raghuvira. That Ravan has come with a chariot and Raghuvir, you have no chariot. Dekhi Vibhishana Bhayav Adhira. He became very impatient. And he starts asking, how will you win over this Ravan? Kehvidi Jitava Veera Balvana. He is so mighty, he is so strong, and he has armed himself and he has come. How will you win him? And Bhagavan there gives him 20 values. And he says, Jehi Jaya Hois Yo Chandana Ana. Whoever has these 20 aspects of a chariot, he says, I also have a chariot, an invisible chariot. Sauraj and Dhiraj, these are the wheels of my chariot, courage and fortitude. Satya and Shila, these are my flag, Vaja Pataka. Like that, in that he says, Kavacha Abheda Vipra Guru Puja. I have an armor, an impenetrable armor. No arrow will go through that. No sense temptations, no distractions, no wanderings will disturb me. Why? Because I have a shield, which is the protection of the Guru. Kavacha Abheda Vipra Guru Puja. The worship of the Guru, the devotion to the Guru, that is my shield. So the grace of the Guru is a very, very big factor which protects the student. Whether we know it or not, a teacher who has accepted what was said earlier, no, Dhanyaste Bhavadikshana Kshanagate Patrikrita Svikrita. So the student who has got accepted by the teacher, the grace of the teacher is there to protect the student. How the student uses it, that is the Purushartha or the choice of the student. But the grace of the teacher is there. And it is a great protection. So he asks for the protection that, oh Lord, please protect me. How does the teacher protect? With the knowledge the teacher protects. With love and compassion the teacher protects. By giving the right guidance so that we know, okay, these are the obstacles, this is the way to overcome, the teacher protects. And most importantly, by his or her own example, the teacher protects. How the teacher lives abiding in the truth, that itself is the biggest protection, that in this world, in spite of all the challenges that we have, we can still remain in the world steadfast on the spiritual path and discover that spiritual path. So in different ways the teacher protects. The teacher also protects by invoking the grace of the Lord on the disciple. So different ways. So here he says, Kripayava Mam Prabhu, please protect me. See, there are two types of teachers. One type of a teacher is people go to the teacher and the teacher's general grace and blessing is there, knowledge is there, and they get guidance. The other type of teachers are those, so the first type of teacher will accept everybody. The second type of teacher also in general accepts everybody, but is very specific if somebody has to be trained under him, by him. Will accept a particular type of disciple and mold who is eligible, who has that even a spark that the rest of it the teacher will do, but even little bit. And they have different methods to do that. They will find. You know, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Nityananda Baba. Nityananda Baba was very great master. Outskirts of Mumbai, Vajreshwari, where we can go, and that's where he used to be, Nityananda Baba. He will be on a tree. He will go up a tree, and if anybody tries to come near him, he will take stones and he will throw. He doesn't want people around him. But those who take those stones as blessings, those who continue to come and be there, those people, Nityananda Baba accepted as the disciples. He had his way. Sometimes one goes to a Mahatma and says, I want to study Vedanta. When a person is young and he goes there and he says, I want to study Vedanta. So the Mahatma can say, why do you want to study? You are so young. Go and get married. There's a whole life in front of you. Why do you want to do all these? How the disciple replies, what is the conviction? Those are the different ways the teacher tests. Like Tapovan Maharaj tested Gurudev. He said, how do I know that you have come from Swami Shivananji? Go and get a letter of recommendation. Now again, Gurudev, all the way from Uttar Kashi, he has to go back to Rishikesh, speak to Shivananji, get the letter, come back. And all this by walk. So different methods by which a teacher tries to test the student and then accept them. When a teacher is accepting a student, then that grace of the teacher and the protection of the teacher is there, and the student also must be aware that every moment I am taking of the teacher's time is a great sacrifice that the teacher himself or herself is doing. So he says, please protect me. O teacher, may your grace protect me on this spiritual path. So many past vasanas can come out. One may get distracted, one may get confused. The knowledge is very, very subtle. The path is tough to walk. There are obstacles. There are chances of completely getting distracted, disillusioned, carried away as though. Sometimes one just gives up because it is so subtle. So to protect oneself from all these, sometimes there will be deep materialistic vasanas which will emerge. One is walking the spiritual path, but some past karma is there. Suddenly greed will arise, suddenly anger will arise, suddenly passion will arise. There are different things that happen. So he says, please protect me. Kripayava mam prabhu. Samsara dukkha kshatim atanushva. Please help me to destroy this affliction in samsara and let me cross over. Samsara dukkha kshatim atanushva. Now comes the next section. A teacher, what should the teacher do? When a student comes like this, who is an adhikari, who has sincere quest, who really wants to know, what does the teacher do? 41st verse. Tatha vadantam sharanagatam swam samsara davanalatataptam nirikshya karunya rasardra drishtya dadyadabhitim sahasa mahatma. So this is the scriptures giving suggestion to the teacher that what should the teacher do. So Shankaracharya ji has imagined this student and this teacher, and then a suggestion is being given to the teacher that when such a student comes, what should the teacher do? Tatha vadantam sharanagatam swam. Speaking like this, as was described earlier, when the student has come to surrender to the teacher, samsara davanala tapataptam, who is getting scorched in the afflictions of samsara, first thing that the teacher does, niriksha karunya rasardra drishtya, with the nectarine glance, when the teacher looks at him with all compassion and love, he grants fearlessness. Dadyad abhitim sahasa, instantly, Mahatma. This great master, what should that master do? The student has come with so much of agitation, so much of anxiety. I want to cross over. I am suffering in this samsara. There is so much of pain that the student has. One has seen the limitations. One knows that there is no happiness in the world outside. With that mind, one has come. Not a negative mind, not an escapist mind, but a mind which wants to really know what is that truth. I want to transcend this finite realm. So when the student comes with that anxiety, Gurudev used to say that the student comes with such intellectual quest and he has 100 questions, why creation, who created this, and what is the purpose of life, and so many questions that the student has. Does even God exist? And if he exists, how do I realize that Supreme? And all that, lots of bubbling questions. And the teacher just looks at him and he says, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Meaning, be at peace first. Questions are there. No doubt knowledge has to be gained. One has to walk the path. One has to do spiritual practices. But first, calm down. Because when the mind is excited, when the mind is agitated, we can't think properly. And even the knowledge which we get, we won't be able to assimilate. That's why before we start any class, we start with an invocation prayer. So that no matter what we have been doing till then, the mind may be disturbed, mind may be agitated, mind may be involved in something else. We tune that mind, calm down. So the Shanti mantra is chanted by the teacher and the student to calm down the mind, to tune up the mind to the Supreme. Then the knowledge transfer happens. So here he says, the master must instantly, sahasa, make that disciple fearless. Tadyad abhitim. How will the master make the student fearless? By looking at that teacher, by looking at that student, assuring the student that you have come to the right place, just settle down and we will take this forward. Tadyad abhitim. So just like knowledge comes through humility, fearlessness also is one important quality that a student must have. The teacher grants fearlessness here, saying, drop all your anxieties. Be at peace. You have come to the right place. In different ways to assure the student. The mind of the student must be at peace. If it is scared, if it is anxious, if it is worried, knowledge will not go in. So just like in the 13th chapter, we have humility mentioned as the first quality to gain knowledge. In the 16th chapter in the Gita, Bhagavan describes the divine qualities. What are the qualities that a student has? Daivi Sampada it is called, which will lead the person to divinity. So that is Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga. That 16th chapter has both demonic qualities and Daivi, divine qualities. So here he says in that the first one, Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi. Abhayam is fearlessness. And that fearlessness is born out of Sattva Samshuddhi, out of Sattva Guna. Where one wants to know, one has dropped all the other fears. In spiritual path, if I want to walk, fearlessness is extremely important. Along with humility, fearlessness. And the beauty is, the more humble I am, the more fearless I will be. Many people think the opposite. Arrogant people are fearless, or people who are able to be aggressive, they are fearless. People who are humble, people who are meek, they are so weak people. But it's the other way. Greater the humility, greater is the fearlessness, because there is nothing to lose. The mind is not attached to anything. Humility has that quality. The more I'm attached to something, more fear, more I want to protect it. I possess, I want to protect, more fear will be there. So why is fearlessness required in this spiritual path? First and foremost, I have to transcend all that I know. I and mine, I have to transcend that. Attachment to things, people, situations, as well as attachment to this identity, Mr. So-and-so, this ego. So I have to drop all that I know to transcend that attachment, and then to know that Supreme Self, which today I don't know, though it is my nature. So to drop that for something which I don't know right now, which is so subtle, which has no name, no form, no qualities, infinite truth. How should I leave the known for the unknown? This will apply in anything I want to achieve. any knowledge I want to achieve or anything new I want to create, I will have to drop the boundaries. I will have to cross the boundaries of the known and go into the unknown. Just think about it. So many people who have gone into the space. It's such an unknown realm. Whatever can be known from the earth, we know, but one who actually goes into space only understands what it is to be there. Here one may simulate those conditions as best as possible, but when one has actually gone there, then one understands what it is to be in the realm of the unknown. That requires fearlessness, that requires courage to drop the attachment to the known. Second, it requires fearlessness because the mind is not steady. The mind goes through different phases. And when this mind goes through different phases, as long as it is in a sattvic mode, there is no problem. But when rajas and tamas, they overwhelm the mind, one starts doubting also one's own capability to walk the path. That's why the fearlessness is required, that okay, this is a phase and I'm going to try my best and overcome this. Grace of the teacher is with me. I march on fearlessly. So the teacher grants fearlessness, makes the student, assured. Fearlessness also is required because one sometimes gets overwhelmed by various things that come up in one's own meditation. Some past memory, some vision, some hurt, some regret, so many things can come up. That's why in the Upanishads also it is said, Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhyaha. This Atma is not attained by some people who are weak. Vivekananda used to say that if you cannot face death face to face, you are not fit for immortality. I must be ready to drop, I must be ready to die. Die in the sense, not physically, die to the past, die to the regrets, die to those memories which hold me back. So fearlessness is required to move every step ahead. And Gurudev used to say beautifully that this spiritual path is such that each step that I take, it's like a bridge from the known to the unknown. Each step that I take towards that unknown, the bridge behind me is burnt. So to continuously walk like that, where there is no turning back, where there is no looking back, that requires fearlessness, that requires courage. Beyond a point, the mind cannot return. When one starts walking the spiritual path, the old ways of living and thinking will not appeal. So one can't go back. And also it is that sometimes one finds the going forward difficult, which is where the grace one invokes. So Gurudev used to describe this very beautifully, where that story of Padmapada is there. That story, beautiful symbolism Gurudev used to give of that. That how is it that when the disciple is on the other banks of the river, Shankaracharya ji is on this banks, and Shankaracharya ji just calls, come here. The student hears the teacher's words that, the teacher has called and is asking me to come there. He starts walking on the water. And every step he puts, there's a lotus that blooms. And he reaches. The river is quite wide, quite deep, but he walks through. So this is a story, and a lot of people will say that it's a mystical story, miracle, but it is actually not like that. There's a spiritual significance to this. I'm just going to share that with you for today. It's a very beautiful story and beautiful depiction of the symbolism that Gurudev gives here.
The reality. Narayana expressing through BMI appears to be the miserable, sorrowful, ugly, stupid PFT. The PFT has no existence without Narayana. But Narayan is not a shareholder of the sorrows of the PFT. So now we are identified with this. Our true nature is that supreme. But at this moment there seems to be a gulf between the two. What I consider, what I live today to be, and what I truly am. There seems to be a gulf. Just as the waker and the dreamer, there is a gulf. This gulf is to be bridged. Bridging the gulf is the art of spiritual living, spirituality. Bridging between what I now live myself and consider myself to be and what my true nature is. To awake to that true nature is spiritual, the fulfillment of spiritual life. And all that spiritual effort is to build the bridge and pass. And this bridge is unique. Once you get on that bridge, you cannot come out. It's a unique bridge. You can only go one way, forward. And in the beginning, in front of you, there is nothing, no bridge. But the moment you keep your feet forward, and you must have the guts to do so, the bridge is built there. Your feet is supported. The moment you take the other feet and put forward, the bridge which was behind has fallen away. So once you, very careful, don't enter into spiritual world. Once you enter into spiritual world, there is no return possible. Why? Behind there is no bridge. Then the forward, in the front of you, no bridge. But you with faith in that Lord and place your feet, it will be supported. This idea of the Upanishad translated into a story form is Padmapada. The Shankara was on one side of the Ganges, and Padmapada is not reading scriptures, not reading, never contemplating, meditating. He gets up, in the early morning and immediately Bartan manjo, दूध बनाओ, दूध गाय को देखो, दूध पिलाओ, दूध पिलाओ, गुरुजी का, ये गुरुजी का सेवा. So that the other disciples became jealous of him. Until the Padmapada comes, Shankara will never start the discourse. He will sit down. Why? He is in the seva, and let him finish the work and come. He will wait. And they will... मक्खन लगा के गुरु को गिरा दिया ये. The Amul treatment, it is called. So this disciple always goes with that Amul dabba in hand, and Shankara knew that other disciples have got misunderstanding. Okay, I will make him understand one day. One day when he was and other disciples were on one side of the Ganges, the other side, he after having washed the clothes, was hanging it on the other side of the Ganges. Suddenly Shankara called him by his name. The moment he heard the Guru's words, he saw Guru standing there and calling me, come here. He had no compunction. He just walked. Everywhere he put the feet, there was a Padma coming out to support him. And he came. And it is the disciples decided, we never knew that. You are Padmapada. It's a title given to him. And his real name we don't know now. Padmapada has become his name. It's a title, was actually speaking. No. He came. And when he came there, Shankara said, how are you? I am all right. So he said, Padmapada, where were you? Sir, I was putting your clothes and washing it. Where? That I don't remember now. Yes. Oh, it's on the other side. Then Padmavada, how did you come here? I don't know. You called me, that is all that I know. And I must reach their home. I just walked. He did not say that. Coming! Wait! Boat! He didn't. Next boat when it comes, I will come. And Guruji called, he walked. There was nothing there, but wherever he placed the feet, the Padma, the lotus came up. This is the unique bridge from the finite to the infinite, from the limited to the unlimited, from the mortal to the immortal, from darkness to light. This bridge that you have to pass through is not there until you put your feet forward. If you hesitate, ayyo, I may fall down. I am in the middle of the Ganges. He would have been reached Bengal within 24 hours. He would have dropped down. He had no doubt about it. His mind is that the Guru is calling me, I must reach there. He did not know whether he was walking on the waters or the water which is supporting. He placed his feet forward. It was support. So it's a unique bridge.
So this is the bridge and how the power of faith is the power of faith in the teacher makes the student also fearless, and how the teacher makes the student fearless to walk this path, this unique bridge that one has to use to go across. So these two, verse number 41 and verse number 42, they are as though suggestion to the teacher. What does 42 say? Vidvan satasma upasatti miyushe mumukshave sadhu yathokta karine prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya tattvopadesham kripayaiva kuryat. To this student who has come, who is Vidwan, who is well versed in scriptures, Satasma upasatti miyushe, who has approached you, who is a mumukshu, who is not just a scholar, but who really wants to be free, who is sadhu, pure-minded person, yatha ukta karine, who has the ability to follow instructions. What you say, yatha ukta karine, he will follow the instructions. So if the teacher says every day do 5 malas of japa, he will do. If the teacher says read the commentary every day and reflect, he will do. Live in self-control. Do some seva. Whatever the teacher says, yathokta karine. Prashanta chittaya, whose mind is relatively calm, who is not caught up still in the worldly ways, who has dropped those things, who has come here to exclusively seek the knowledge. Shamanvitaya. So the mind has become calm. All those qualities earlier which were said, Shama, Dhamma, Uparama, one has cultivated those. To such a student, Tattvopadesham Kripayaiva Kuryat. To such a student, one must give the Upadesha, meaning the indication of the truth, Tattva Upadesha. And how? With lot of love, with most compassionate, kind bhav, one must just share this knowledge. So Tattvopadesham Kripayaiva Kuryat. So here Kripa, in this commentary, Gurudev has defined Kripa very, very beautifully. You see the last paragraph here in the commentary. So he says the word Kripa has unfortunately no corresponding word in English. It is not merely kindness, nor is it a superficial sympathy. At best, we can say that it is an attitude of sympathy, cooked in kindness, honeyed with love, and served on golden platters of understanding. This is the definition of Kripa. Attitude of sympathy, cooked in kindness, honeyed with love, served on the golden platters of understanding. This much is the feeling behind what the teacher says to the student. With this bhav, the teacher must communicate the knowledge to the student. So now, when the scripture has given this suggestion, the guru starts the advice. He tells the disciple what has to be done. And the disciple has generally expressed his anxiety. Now the disciple is in some time, as the guru assures the disciple will ask the question, specific question, that what does he want to know. So that we will continue. For this week, for this month, we have done 4 classes. The 5th one we will do on Monday. So tomorrow no class, but we will do the 5th class on Monday morning. Any questions? You are welcome to ask.
Namaste Swamiji. This Krupa eva kuryat, this would translate to compassion only, right?
Tattvopadesham kripaya eva kuryat. The Tattva Upadesha must be done with kindness, compassion, what we just read, no? What Gurudev said.
Okay, so the one word meaning would be roughly compassion.
You can say kindness, compassion, whichever.
Okay, thank you.
Swamiji, this unique bridge, that series, can you put it on somewhere, like on WhatsApp or Telegram group or somewhere?
Your voice is not very clear.
This unique bridge, what the Gurudev was showing, so that bridge, words, I could not take down. So can you put it somewhere, like this?
The clip of Gurudev we will put up in the Google Drive.
But it's not clear in those the steps, like mortal to immortal and those things.
No, so you want me to transcribe that? That's what you are saying?
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem.
Somewhere, like on WhatsApp, Telegram group. Okay,
okay, we'll make it.
Thank you.
Swamiji, the word Vidwan over here in this last verse refers to the Guru, am I right? Vidwan sa tasmat upasattimiyuse.
No. Vidwan is that person. Vidwan,
the student.
Yeah, the student who is a Vidwan who has come to you, no? Come to the teacher.
Achha, okay.
Tasma is tasmai actually. Tasmai means to you who has come. To you, the Vidwan who has come. That's what the meaning is.
Okay. Thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.